All right. I think, Anthony, you are live.
Awesome. All right. Really excited to be here. Thank you guys for having me. So we're going to do intros here in a moment, but we'll let everybody kind of catch up. We'll start the presentation here in about, let's say 3 minutes or so. We'll start around 12:05. We'll let everybody kind of come in and get situated in our virtual room. Hey,
Really
Steve.
looking forward to this one. Yeah, thanks. Power Apps portals. Really interesting topic, I think, especially if you've used Power Apps and you want to share. There's a whole ton of things. I've been really looking forward to this one since it's announced. It's something I've done before, embedded some Power BI reports in Power Apps, put them in portals. So yeah, really looking forward. I think this will be a great topic.
Yeah, I'm excited too, and I've dug in here quite a bit, and this is going to be awesome to kind of just take a step back and be able to get reacclimated with even getting started. It's changed a ton over the years with where Power Apps portals. It became, I guess, it started um, back in like the dynamic side, but now coming into the Power Platform. Seeing that is really exciting, and I know Schilling here, who we have on hold kind of right now, it's going to be really exciting to get him in here and really lay the framework and the groundwork here for everybody to get started in something like a Power Apps portals. Outside of that, Steve, what's keeping you busy over there in the UK?
Yeah, and I've just come back to the UK for the past several months now. So getting back into life here. So it's opening up. We're doing stuff. So outside of work, it's nice to finally have some summer and be able to go outside and do stuff. It looks like we're 5 minutes past. So I think it's good time to kick off.
Perfect. I agree. Thank you for that. So I'm sharing my screen here.
All right.
With that, I will kick off the.
Let me transition into screen share. Anthony, you're good to go. Kick off. So for those of you who are aware and are familiar with the Power BI Tips channel, I'm the background voice, the producer for this event, Mike Carlo. If you hear me jump in every so often, don't be offended. Anthony is not a ventriloquist. I'm just out here in the background helping produce things. So Anthony, you are good to go. Take it away.
Awesome. Thank you so much. All right. Without further ado, we have the Power Apps portals getting started and where to begin. And with our Milwaukee Power Platform user group, really excited that everybody is here and participating today. Again, we're out of Wisconsin, but I guess initially came out of Wisconsin, but there's visitors from all over the world. So really excited to have everybody here. A little bit about the agenda and what the framework looks like here is that introduction network. So you'll see some of that happen here in a moment. We'll do introductions, and then we'll go through the presentation, and we'll dive through Power Apps portals there and a couple demos that Steve Schilling has set up. And then beyond that, if there's any questions and wrap up, and again, we'll just kind of leave that for the end. But if anybody has any questions and has any comments, we'll be monitoring YouTube as well. So feel free to write in, and we'll interrupt Steve as things come about. And really excited to have that interaction too. So don't forget to, if you have questions or you have a thought, please comment, and that'll be exciting. Also, do not forget to add us on the Milwaukee Power Platform user group on LinkedIn. That's where you're going to be able to stay up to date with everything. And that's where we post, all of our events, and we certainly have a lot of those coming up. So really excited to be here. And with that, I will do my quick intro. Again, my name's Anthony Escobedo. I started this back in last February already. It's gone by really quick, and I'm also on the SharePoint user group as a board member there with more of an emphasis on the Power Platform side of things. It's just something that is really fun that I even do at night. I spent actually this almost an entire weekend, having some fun in the Power Platform space. Specifically the Canvas apps, I think is where you'll see me spend a lot more time. But I guess you'll see with my normal day job also helps with that too. So I'm a technical architect at Concurrency. I've been doing this for some time, and then outside of that, being able to travel. Right now, it's we really can't travel a whole ton. There's things that are opening up and closing down, but through these user groups, that's kind of where I get my travel fix. especially having Steve Campbell on the board here. It's always exciting to be able to just have conversations and travel virtually this way. So again, excited to be here. And you can follow me on LinkedIn. So that's where I have more of the formal posts, technology updates. From Twitter, it's more of my personality, and I get to have a little bit more fun in that space. And then, I guess everything about me is under my website. It's more of it's kind of like keeping me on task because I have my events out there too. But also it's nice to just, keep things up to date out there. So really excited to be here. And with that, I will pass it over to Steve Campbell.
Hey, I'm Steve Campbell. So I co-run the group with Anthony. I typically come from the Power BI side. So I love to see the Power BI side of stuff, how Power BI integrates in the Power Platform, how we use the solutions together. Do a lot on that. Really interesting topic, I think. So I've recently moved back to the UK after spending about 8 years over in Wisconsin with both Anthony and Mike in Milwaukee. So native to this group, but now obviously with everything going virtual, amazing I can still be over here and still present and still be part of it. So I'm a capability lead at Cognizant. So I run the Power BI team for Cognizant Microsoft Business Group here in the UK. Also data platform MVP in the Power BI side. So pretty much spend most of my days, nights, and evenings talking about Power BI. Pretty cool though, as I get to hang out and meet awesome people and watch great demos such as this one. So really looking forward to it and great to be here.
I know that you're very humble, but I see that big plaque on the wall back there with MVP there. So let's not forget that you put in a ton of work in the last number of years, and do not sleep on Steve. He is like the guru on LinkedIn, sharing tons and tons of information through LinkedIn. So make sure you follow him there. So thanks again, Steve, for that.
Yeah, thank you.
And on to Steve Schilling. So Steve, we'll happy to have you.
Well, thanks. I'm happy to be here. It's good to get back with you guys again here. I know it's been kind of a rough year, and we are not able to do these kinds of things in person nowadays. But anyway, my name's Steve Schilling. I'm a senior manager over at Protiviti these days, and doing a lot of work in Power Platform, Teams, SharePoint, as I have been for the last it's 18 years now since SharePoint 2003 was 18 years ago. I got to do real math now. And when I'm not doing this kind of stuff, I'm I like to play golf, like to watch football. My golf scores, people would think I'm better at golf than I am. So I'm pretty happy with low 90s and a couple of beers. So that's my golf experience. So with that, let's just kind of jump into things here. Power Apps Portals is that part of the Power Platform that a lot of people don't really know about. They kind of see it there when they're in making their Canvas apps and things like that. But what they are is they're actually external facing websites that people can use to allow people outside of their organization to interact. I've been at a few places where people come along and they're like, well, we've got this great Canvas app. Now I want to share it with the world. Well, that kind of wasn't what Canvas apps were for, but we have this other thing that we can work through. So, some of the things that portals give you is that you can have a user base with your website, and those users can be known, meaning that they authenticate through a variety of different ways, or they can, you can have anonymous content and have anonymous users that can come out. They can, fill out a form. They can ask questions. Whatever they need to do, interact with your site. We can store that data in the Dataverse, formerly known as the Common Data Service or Common Data Model, whichever variety you want to use. And then there is also so much more stuff that we can do with this. We can build websites. We can embed SharePoint. We can embed Power BI, iframes, build forms, lists, so forth. So this is our our good old standard Microsoft Power Platform diagram that you've seen a million times, and now today 1,000,001. Portals doesn't really, is not really represented here, other than it is, a child of Power Apps. It's really also kind of a child of Dynamics too, but I would actually like to see it become a little more of a first-class citizen to maybe update the diagram to look something like this. But the folks at Microsoft just haven't taken me seriously yet. So a few more of those benefits that we were talking about. Automatic connection to Dataverse, which it's when you're building Canvas apps and things like that in Power Apps, you don't have automatic connections to databases. You have to, for data, any data actually, you have to make a connection to SharePoint or to a SQL database or something along those lines. But with this, Dataverse is just ingrained. A big one, and anybody who's been around for a while knows that authentication into websites, especially internet websites, is a big deal. You know, if you come from a time like maybe 20 years ago, um, user ID and password seems ubiquitous, but like back in the day, that was the first 3 or 4 months of your project was just getting people signed in with Power Apps portals. It's there. And then there are several different ways of editing pages and content, which is going to be nice for your power users as well as your developers to make it a really smooth experience. And then the other thing, also anybody who's tried to put together a website, responsive design, just built right in. When you get in, you kind of poke around a little bit, you're going to see a lot of stuff that looks like Bootstrap. That's because Bootstrap is there and it's built right in. So very cool stuff. Also, we have some templates for our portals. If you just come in your ordinary Power Apps or Office tenant, you'll have the starter portal, which is a somewhat blank portal. There's some sample pages in there and whatnot, but no real use cases at that point. And that's kind of where most people are going to start with the portals. But if you have the any dynamics stuff going on where you've got the customer engagement apps, then you'll have a few other options there, like a customer self-service portal, partner portal, employee self-service portal, and so forth, that you can choose from and start and build off of those. Yeah. The only limits that we have really with these portals is that you can only have one portal per template in an environment. And then I've got a couple of examples here where if you have a partner portal in English, say that 10 times fast, then you're good if you want to decide to create a partner portal in French. But if somebody else comes along and wants to build another one in English, maybe under a different name, sorry, can't do it. But you can have other English portals as long as they're just not the same template. All right. Well, I've yapped on long enough here, so I'm going to switch over to a little bit of demo. Hopefully everybody knows which South Park episode that comes from.
I think you got to explain this one. I don't know if you can, I guess, because South Park sometimes.
Yeah, this one is actually the Wii is going to be in 3 weeks, and Cartman is pacing out in front of the toy store waiting for it to come. So he's
oh man, when the Wii came out, that's awesome.
Getting impatient. Yep.
Yep.
And then of course he ended up freezing himself to try to do it, and he ended up freezing himself for like 500 years. But I'm not going to make you wait 3 weeks to get to this. So let's see. So what we want to do is we get into our Power Apps Maker portal, which is at make.powerapps.com. Brings you into your environment, and I'm starting with a fresh tenant, like everybody does, right? We do something new, we start with a fresh tenant. Maybe not. Okay, but I'm going to today. and I've got really nothing going on here. I've got no apps, nothing built. So I see down here that I have portal from blank. All right, I'm going to click on that because that's what I want to do. I want to create a new blank portal. And comes in and says, oh, I don't have a database. So let's create a new environment. Well, okay. I can't create a new environment because I don't have proper licensing for this user. So let's switch over to, since I am the global admin, as everybody is, I'm sure, right? Of course not. But in this case, I'm the global admin, and I can come in and I've got Power Apps licenses. So I'm going to add to my administrator a license that's capable of creating an environment. And then I will go back to my Power Apps, and I don't want to do it in here. I'm going to go to the famous Power Platform Admin Center, which is these AKA MS shortcuts. PPAC, Power Platform Admin Center, easy enough to remember. So if you don't learn anything else from today, remember that one. That will get you a long ways. So open up the Power Platform Admin Center, and I'm just going to create a new environment, and I will create a trial environment because this is a demo tenant, and I don't want to spend real money yet. So I'm going to call it the demo environment. I'm going to make it trial in the United States, and then I have to create a database because that's what it was complaining about. So say yes there. We go to next. English. There's this little hidden thing here called, for the URL. You can actually change the URL of your environment if you want. I just leave it as it is. It'll be org and then some goofy number, but you could change it to something if you wanted to. And then I'm going to go ahead and save, which should create my environment for me.
So Steve, as you're going through and you're creating a database and creating the new environment here, so you need, not to dive into like licensing questions, but it sounds like you're going to need, you check the license in the beginning, you're going to need a license in order to get into this.
Yeah. Or this is also something that if you have somebody else to do this for you, you can a global admin or something like that can get you proper licensing and things like that. There are a couple things though that a couple of ways to be able to do this without involving a bunch of other people. You can get a developer tenant, which we can get a link for that. That's developer.microsoft.com, and then you can sign up for the developer program and get yourself a free Office tenant. Or you can also add the Power Apps developer plan, which will give you a couple of gigabytes of capacity and allow you to create a portal in there as well. So
yeah, it's like a no strings attached kind of deal. Like that's always helpful. And actually, speaking of which, I mean, being able to just create something and then allow it to just go away when you're done with it, no cleanup necessary. That's always very helpful.
Absolutely. And then with like the developer tenant and developer plan, the idea is that Microsoft wants people to know how to do this stuff, so they'll give you some freebies to let you learn how to do this stuff, and that's really what those are intended for, is to kind of learn and play around and not have to go to a global admin and say, give me an environment administrator and get their knickers in a twist and things like that. So
yep. We've all seen, we have all been through that, right? Where we ask,
absolutely.
It's no bang on IT, but it's when you're going and you're requesting something, or the global admin. I mean, they wear many hats. So having to go to somebody like that for a simple request like this, sometimes it's easier just to create that use case outside of that, and if it works within testing, then you go through the the whole rigmarole, of having to get through to the other side, in production.
Well, absolutely. I mean, sometimes when you ask for some of these things, especially when we get to one of my next slides here, where it tells you what roles and what roles and permissions you need to have. One of those is system admin. It's for an environment, but whenever you go to somebody that's a global admin or an IT, network admin, something like that, and you say, "I need system admin privileges," um, basically what that person is hearing is, um, you know, so you're asking me if you can, come burn down my house with me in it. Well, the answer is a very quick no, and then we'll talk about it later. But
The life of a consultant or anybody that's really trying to, go out
oh, for
there
sure.
and get something done,
Yep. And I mean, there's reasons for that, but yeah, sometimes it'd be nice if some of these were worded a little bit differently. But let's give this just a minute to cook here, because sometimes it takes a bit to prepare databases and, and do uh, the things that it needs to do to get you all set up. So while we're doing that, let's talk about the life cycle of this portal that we're about to create. All portals start as trials. And then while you're in that 30-day period, you can decide if you want to use it. You can play around with it, whatever you need to do. Dump it, start over, whatever. Um, you get to the end of the 30 days, or anytime before that 30 days, you can convert it to a production environment, and the production environment makes it permanent. This is where it starts using your licensing and metering and things like that that'll be going on with it. If you get past that 30 days and you're not quite ready to convert to production for whatever reason, either you don't want to, or maybe you know are procuring licenses and whatnot, it goes into a suspended state. If you go past the 7 days, um, then you go into a deleted state. Funny thing about the deleted state is that it deletes the portal. You can't and your basic configuration around it. So you'll lose the URL, you lose some of the networking and things like that that's around it, and a little bit of the configuration. But all of the goo that's in the portal stays. So your pages stay, your users stay, your content all stays. So if you rebuild the portal, you've got all of that stuff there, which is really nice actually.
Yeah, this is a great visual.
Yep. And yeah, I borrowed this one from Microsoft. They do a good job at doing visuals for me. So this is basically just those notes that I talked about, along with a link to how to convert your portal. So reference slide there. Now we talk a little bit about that licensing stuff. And my disclaimer on licensing is that I only talk about what's published on the website. Pricing is MSRP. I don't deal with any discounts or anything like that, because it's almost a 100% certainty that I'll get proven wrong somewhere along the line if I go too deep into this.
The fine print.
There are a couple of different types of licensing that we talk about. One is login capacity, and then which starts at $200 per unit per month. A unit is 100 logins. And think of a login as like a day pass. Somebody logs in and they can go in and out of the system all they want for 24 hours, and that counts as one login against you. If you have a lot of people that are going to log in, then there is some volume pricing that's published where you can get 10 units for a discounted price, and then it goes like 50 units, and but it's all out on the website. The other option is if it's going to be anonymous stuff, where you want to have people come in and maybe do like a suggestion box type of thing, or register for an event or something like that, where you really don't need to have them log in. They can just interact with some forms and maybe ask you some questions or whatever, and send messages, that kind of thing through the portal. That's by page views, and that starts at $100 per 100,000 views. All of the details on that stuff are at this link here. That's pricing. So.
Yeah, I know licensing can be really tricky, and I'm surprised that you were able to simplify that so well, because I've tried to explain licensing, and there's so many different SKUs when it comes to just Power Platform in general, but this one being Power Apps Portals, still just when you dive into it, it's tough. So thanks for simplifying that. That was a learning curve on my side.
Yep. And one other thing, I'm gonna back up here for a second. One other thing on this login capacity is that somebody might come along and say, well, I got a bunch of people in my company that would be going out there and doing things on that portal as well. These day passes don't count for your internal people. Your internal people will use their be using their Power Apps license that they've got through your company. So this is for external authentications.
Yeah, it's a good breakdown. Yeah, good call.
And this is where it gets kind of scary for your admins. The required roles and permissions. In Azure AD, you need to be able to register an app, which I think is somewhat reasonable. It's not like you're going to be going out to the Azure portal and doing that yourself. The machine will do it for you. That when you go to provision a portal, that's if your global admin hasn't disabled it. Otherwise, if they've disabled it, they're the only ones that can create a portal. And then inside the Power Platform, you have to have a user account with read-write access mode, which is going to be pretty much everybody. And then you need that system administrator role, which is really going to raise up the hair on the back of their neck when you say system administrator, because traditionally that is a kind of a global everything goes kind of a permission that I don't like. But it is system admin for the environment that you would have created. So it shouldn't be, hopefully you can kind of tame that a little bit and calm people down. Okay. Now that I mentioned that this can be disabled, this is how you would do that. You need the Power Apps PowerShell, which is in the slide deck. I've got the link for that, and it's the PowerShell commandlets for Power Apps, and it needs to be done by a highly privileged account: global admin, Dynamics admin, Power Platform admin, and then there's your command right there. And then what you get is your users, if they go in and try to do that, get the Microsoft version of the Nana Nana Boo Boo message, which is you don't have permissions to create this because we blocked you. So,
hey Steve, quick question that we're seeing in the chat here. Is there a blog that you follow to turn something like this off, or is there just documentation on Microsoft's website? This is something obviously you have to have the certain rights to be able to do, unless you're in that developer tenant that you're talking about. Mm-hmm. Maybe just explain some of that on how you found this and how that went for you when you were applying that.
Sure. In the documentation, when you talk about the required roles and permissions that you need, there is a link to an article that has this in it, this PowerShell command. So, so a lot of times when you're going through this, it is sort of that, going down the rabbit hole of, all right, well, let's create a portal, and then we find out, okay, what do I need to have this portal? And then you get to the licensing and the permissions, and it kind of takes you and deeper into the rabbit hole, and finally you get into a place like this, and it's like, well,
why didn't you start with that?
Wait a minute, how do I disable this? And so
one of those things.
Totally.
It's like in IT, have you tried to turning it on and off? Like this is just one of those things that, could potentially land in the admin center at some point where it would be, like a toggle or something. I mean, they're continuously adding to that Power Platform admin center where I could see this land in there at some point.
Yep. And it is actually in the Power Platform admin center. This particular setting is not yet, but Portals is in there, and you can do some administration there. I don't know, I just went backwards, but so yeah, some of these things, and being an admin in Office is actually kind of a tough job these days, because traditionally things would be shut off, and then you would have to make the effort to go turn something on. Well, in the kind of the cloud world that we live in now, everything is on, and people kind of have to go in and shut it off, and usually it's sometimes too late. It's already gotten out into the wild by the time people figure it out. But giving you a heads up on this one, so that if you're a global admin, you want to shut it off and keep control over it, that's how you do it.
Yeah, speaking of which, with that, this is automatically turned on by default. You open up a brand new tenant like you have today. Did you have to go in and play with PowerShell before you started that, or is that something that's just automatically on?
It's automatically on. This tenant that we're looking at was just provisioned a couple of days ago, and I did really nothing with it up to this point. So other than adding a trial of Power Apps per user. So it looks like our environment here is cooked up and ready to go. So let's go in and back to our Power Apps, and then we'll create this portal. And it still thinks I don't have an environment, which I don't. I'm going to refresh, and then I'm going to go to that new environment that I just set up. So now I'm in here, trial environment, and now I can create my portal. And it's going to ask me a couple of things here. It's going to ask me for a name, and I'm going to say that I am and then I can give it a URL, which a different email address, but oops, I can't put spaces in it, and I can't use uppercase. So let's call it, and then it's going to
see if it's available. All right.
Yeah.
First try.
Yep, first try. That's why I kind of like to put a couple of things on there. Maybe if I would have done like demo 1 or something like that, that's probably not used. But then I can go in and create, and
I've had some fun with that where you'd have to wait. Oh, sorry about that.
You do have to wait. It's going to deploy a bunch of solutions and things like that into the environment that probably aren't there yet. I know it's going to have more stuff than this. Plus, when we get back to the apps, it's going to create the portal, and it's also going to create a management app. So
maybe just high level, if you could just give us your understanding, your version of like the different containers that are out there in the Power Apps world. So you talked about environments and solutions and portals and how those all fit together.
Sure. Yeah, and this is with this we have an environment, and the environment has a database. It is an isolation from other environments, these environments can come and go, and really all they are is a container for the different things that you're going to create, whether it be a portal, apps, flows, solutions. And solutions are there to make things a little more portable, but everything kind of bundles into some of these solutions. So
awesome.
Okay, let's let that cook for a few minutes here, and we will
So as it spins up, we're allowing Power Apps portals to do its side of things. On the back end there, it's gonna keep cooking. Um, would you be able to spin up like a Power Apps portals in like a Microsoft Teams database? So we have Dataverse for Teams. Just throwing that out there so we can kind of clear it up, because there's quite a big difference nowadays with all the different databases that are available. Is that something that's possible?
To my knowledge, that is not possible to spin that up in a Dataverse for Teams.
Yeah, it'd be kind of crazy, like a light version of it. Like that'd be kind of cool, like an internal like kind of website. I think that'd be kind of fun. But yeah, I don't.
Yeah, and with that, for the internal stuff, really what you would do is you would take out all of the portal stuff like authentication, which will be our next topic here, and really just go with a model-driven app.
Mhm.
And you'll get kind of the same thing where you have it based on your data. You can create pages and things like that inside of your model-driven app that would be very similar to the portal. The portal really puts that all of that external facing wrapper around it that you don't really necessarily need with the business applications. But Dataverse for Teams certainly would be able to provide you with a model-driven app that could handle that use case for you.
Mhm.
So, but let's talk about the authentication. While we're kind of on that topic, we have the authenticated users, and this is for portals and things like that that are going to be given to like partners, vendors, customers, constituents, depending on your use case. And people would come in and they would log in, and then they would have some kind of an identity associated with them. In this, and this is where it kind of shows through some of the dynamic stuff that it's been built off of. Authenticated users are built as a contact, not a user. There is a users table or list in the data, but you're not going to find your external users in that users table where you would expect to. They're going to be in contacts, so be aware of that one. Contacts can register or they can be invited. And then we have some roles that we can fit these people into. So you can have authenticated users, anonymous users, administrators, and you can add to that list as you need to. So one of the things to also be aware of is that portal users must have a unique email address. If you deactivate a person and somebody tries to, they want to re-register or something like that, they're not going to be able to, because deactivated users and active users they're all in the same table, and that's the primary key. So
Is that what the portal looks like right there?
it is actually. This is the portal was built in 1993, and they call it Windows for Workers. So that's one thing that I like to do too. Is I bring back some nostalgia, make a lot of movie references. So hopefully everybody's seen every movie and TV show there is to see, because I'll probably reference it at some point. And also have been using computers since the 80s. So when we get into these authentication providers, the ones that are there just out of the box are Azure AD, B2C, and actually the portals um, interface will make it fairly easy to set up a B2C environment if you need one, or you can use an existing one. Microsoft for live accounts, LinkedIn, Facebook, Google, Twitter. There's some stuff in the documentation right now that says Twitter is kind of wonky, so be a little careful of that one. And then my favorite of all of these is the local authentication, and this is the local database, the Dataverse database, and in the documentation it says it's not recommended, but when we start up our portal, it will be one of two that are enabled. The rest of them are disabled. So, but the reason why this is not recommended is Microsoft would much rather have you use something more secure and maintainable like B2C. And then if you have something else that you would like to use, that will support OpenID Connect, SAML, or WSFed, then you can. There's an other. You go in and configure it with the proper client ID, secret, all that good stuff.
And this, I'm sure, is like its own world, right? I mean, if you're trying to go in and set something up like that, or is it just a button or two that you got to click to allow certain things?
It depends. Like in the other, you probably have to do some stuff on the back end, and then actually that kind of segues us into our next little demo here.
Yeah. And then just time check, we do have 17 minutes, just so that you're aware.
Yep. And it looks like my brisket isn't quite done here yet, so I'll bring up the one that I smoked 16 hours ago.
Speaking of which, have you done any cooking lately? I know that you're big into the whole smoking meats.
Yeah, I can't afford that anymore. Boy, meat has just gotten too expensive. But I did smoke some pork loin, a couple of weeks ago. That was pretty good.
Oh, actually, you know what? The picture that you sent me was
I did send
you
you
had
that picture. Yeah.
there was that. There was also steak the other day.
I had a steak. Yep.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, that looked good.
bonus came through and I was able to get a steak. So, but yeah, it's been I don't know, it's kind of weird with everything's in a little short supply, so prices are real high and stuff.
Yep.
But
Yep.
all right, let's take a look at this pre-baked one here that I did. To look at the authentication stuff, we just go into the settings. You can either go through the button here or the little drop down off the ellipses, and then there's authentication settings. And when we bring up the authentication settings, we can see that we have local and Azure are enabled, and I went through and enabled Google, but it's pretty much the same exact process to set up Google, LinkedIn, Twitter,
Oh,
and
wow.
so forth as for as this Facebook that I'm showing here. Which, if you're going to do this, you get we'll call it Facebook, or I don't know why anybody would want to change these names, but I guess they would like to confuse people. But what you have to do is you end up having to go to developers.facebook.com, which they give you a nice little pop out link here. I'm not a Facebook user, so I can't really log in and do any of that stuff. But you would go in, and then really all you do is you register an app, and then you use this as the reply URL. This sign in Facebook. Google has sign in Google. And then what it's going to do is, using the OAuth standards, it's going to give you a client ID and a secret, which are going to be two, big ugly strings of characters. And you plop those in there and you click confirm, and then voila, you will have a little thing that says enabled by your provider, and then it will just work. So it is truly just magic. I mean, when I think back to some of the earlier days of my career, and I'm thinking, okay, if I really wanted to do that, I'd have to set up meetings with Google, and we'd have to like come up with some kind of a protocol, and it'd take a year to get something like that done. And now it's just there. It's so amazing how far we've come in just a short period of time. Even 10 years ago, that would have been a tough thing to do. So that is that. Let's take a look at what one of these apps just looks like right out of the chute. I'm going to click the right button here. If I click browse, then my portal is going to show up. I am logged in as the administrator through Azure AD, but I'm going to sign out just so I can show that sign-in screen again. Click sign in, and now I've got a user ID and password for the local sign-in, or I can log in with Google, or I can log in with Azure AD. If I click Google, then it's going to bounce me over to Google. You've seen this scenario on websites dozens of times where you can log in with Facebook or log in with Google or log in with you know Twitter or anything else that you wanted to use.
So this is
Same
like one of
thing.
those things from like an end user's perspective. I mean, it bounce them out into Google, but it makes them feel
Mhm.
comfortable almost because it's like you said, we've seen this before. So it's
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
Power Apps, like you're saying, it's they've come a very long way.
Yep.
Um,
It's one less password to remember. Um, if you sign in with something like Google, and if you're signed in to Google through like Chrome, then it would probably just pick up those credentials and say, do you want to do this, and then let you in. But
yeah, you
I
read my
think
mind. I was gonna ask.
as a developer, I think this, would put your mind at ease a bit. Letting security be governed by Google and stuff, and not having to hold on to passwords and all of that. So for us
absolutely.
developers, I think that's a huge thing.
Oh, for sure. And even from the business side of things, you don't have any credentials to be compromised, and that is the big reason why we don't want to use local sign-in. Because when we do have local sign-in, now we've got user IDs and passwords and things like that that can be compromised. Um, Somebody gets in with an admin account or something like that, and they pick out all of those user IDs and passwords, which are people's emails and the same you know password that they've created from their kids' names and birthdays and whatever, and you know, do what hackers do with that stuff. So yeah, Azure AD for internal people, is what I'm going to go back to, and then B2C for maybe the external folks. So I log in um, as me, the administrator, and as an administrator, I get this little goodie here, which is a little toolbar, so I can create pages and edit and things like that. Go back to the home page, and then as that administrator with that toolbar, I can actually just go into hover over these things and do some editing right on the fly. We have you know, snippets and things here. If I want to change the image, I can come in here and edit the HTML on this. A lot of things that I can do just right in while browsing the website.
Oh, that's something special there that you're able to take advantage of HTML on this. I know it's an external website, but that doesn't mean that it's going to accept something like that when you're building inside of a product like this. So the customization there, that's something
Yep.
special.
Yeah, it's kind of a live customization right here. And there's actually 3 different ways that we can customize these sites. So if you have like a content editor, say you would add them as an administrator of the site and let them go through and edit things this way. The other way that we can edit a website like this is to um, come into our get back to our apps page here, and
So as you're
see
navigating to
what
that, one of the questions that I was going to ask was around no authentication. Have you had any use cases for that yet? Where unauthenticated users, anonymous.
oh sure. If you have a website where you want to maybe take requests, like I don't know, somebody wants to they come to your website, you show them some products and things like that, and then you have a request form where you can get some more information from them, and somebody can contact them. Or if they have, maybe it's um, like a registration for an event, um, anything like that where it would be interactive. And then also you can maybe show some information out here if you wanted to use this to present like some Power BI statistics. I don't know, maybe somebody's got a something like that that can
Yeah, I could
provide
see
some
that being
information.
an awesome use case, like you were saying, with like the event or something like that. And then on the back end, I mean, it's just Dataverse, so you're able to kind of store that information where it makes sense and manipulate it like any other Dataverse table or entity, if that's what people are still calling it. But I know on documentation they've changed names around quite a bit in these last 6 months to a year.
I think that's a really awesome price for the licensing as well, for such a powerful tool like Power Apps to be able to, for that price point, to have for the unauthenticated users to have a public facing Power App. I mean, that's amazing. That's, instead of trying to build a difficult website, and we know how difficult it can be this would normally be to build all in code. So that's really cool.
Definitely. Yep. And people look at that and it's like, well, even on the authenticated side, and it's like, well, it's 100 logins for, $200 or whatever you're paying full retail. And they look at that, well, it's $2 per login. Well, it's not really $2 per login because, for one thing, the more you use, the price goes way down. But there's a ton of intellectual property there that you're getting. You're getting the hosting services and the networking and the SSL certificates and all that kind of stuff that comes along with it too, that are built into that price. So it might seem like it could get real expensive, but then when you decide that you want to do this on your own, host it somewhere, um, you end up incurring a whole bunch of costs as well that might not be as out in the open.
Yeah, and Power Apps Portals is obviously a really complex tool and the things that it can do, but it also can be simple, like you were showing on the screen, and like you're diving into here. There's like the easy version and like the more complex way of doing things, and they've really made it simple for people to get started.
Yep. And when you go into the Power Apps, the Maker portal, and you click on Edit like you would with a like a Canvas app to get the thing into the design studio, if you will, you'll see some things that look really familiar, but they're a little bit different. You've got the top bar here, you've got the properties pane, we've got our canvas in the middle. They actually call it a canvas in Power Apps portal, even though it's not a canvas app like a Power Apps canvas app. When you come into your components, some of the things that you won't see here, you won't see galleries, you won't see forms and screens and things like that, because this is it's much more of a website, and it's also very model driven. So you can add forms, you can add lists, you can add text and images, iframes that you can just drop right into the page there. Power BI, you can drop a Power BI report into a page. So we've got things like that. This right here, this is where you start seeing things like Bootstrap and the themes there. There's this basic theme which is shut off. It's kind of weird that it's shut off by default, but this is where it will create the CSS for you, and you really just have to go over here and set your is that 6 or 7 colors here for the different areas, and so that makes that kind of easy. They're page templates that come out of the box, but you can create more if you need to. And then there's some other settings here with table permissions and whatnot.
We have 4 minutes left. Just have heads up there.
Okay. Another thing here that's kind of cool about this particular tool is that wherever you're at, you can get a code editor by clicking on this little hidden, angle brackets, slash in the middle. So if you wanted to, change this title here, you click on that, and the HTML for that comes in. You want to change the HTML for this, you can do that right in here as well. So this is kind of that intermediate range. And then kind of the last thing that I want to show is the last thing I want to show here is the that portal management app, which is where you really dig down into the weeds. So you'll come into this your app, and then with that portal management app, you actually don't need to be in the right environment. You don't edit this app. This is just one that's built for you. You could edit it, I guess, but um, when you come in here, you'll see you can edit websites. You can set up templates, redirect your pages and web templates down here, forms, basic and advanced forms. Um, this is where you go in and manage your security. You get your contacts list here, invitations, which is kind of a neat thing too. You can actually create a contact, say, well, I really want to control who gets into this thing and who doesn't. Well, you take the registration part off, and then you can have somebody say, oh, well, we've got, customer X. Well, we're going to give them access to the portal now. You come in, create a contact for them, send them an invitation, they redeem it. It's a very slick process. And that's all built in for you too, as part of that service. You can do
Well, I think
ads.
that goes back to like your point earlier with like the IP that you get with this. I mean, it's this whole entire package, and there's so much more to keep diving into. And like you mentioned with security, I feel like we just barely scratch the surface, and then you're showing these other features that are available. That's some incredible stuff there.
And so that particular app is out here, and yeah, this is there is a ton of stuff that you can do to customize your site out here. So
we might have to have you back to dive into some of those features, and specifically, I mean, clicking behind the scenes there. Oh, here we go.
That's kind of what I was thinking here, is that I've got this huge product to give an overview on, but 45 minutes to do it, and so these are some of the things that you can do. Setting up emails and mailboxes for Exchange integration, so that the site can send out emails and receive emails and things like that. SharePoint integration. You can have people be able to upload and download files that are their files. It's actually really kind of a cool proxy. I could talk for a while on that, but I just don't have time to right now. Power BI is another one that Steve Campbell alluded to, that you can embed these into the pages and use row level security. I've done that, which is kind of an interesting thing, where the way I did it was I actually brought the contacts table from the Dataverse into my data set, and used that as kind of the basis for my row level security.
Oh wow!
There's development stuff, all of that stuff that I didn't really have time to talk to, but it was there. The themes, page editing, templates, all that kind of cool stuff. And then they've got this thing called Liquid, which is sort of an Angular-ish type
like
of
beer liquid.
Well, I mean, you need some of that too, but
To get through it.
Liquid is the markup language that we can embed into these pages to do stuff like if we want to embed a Power BI report, or a form or something like that, that's done through these Liquid tags that look like Angular, but they're kind of not and kind of are. It's really an interesting thing. I mean, that's a whole topic on its own. Search, we can have it search knowledge bases and things like that as well. And there's just so much other stuff that we can build into these to make interactive, rich websites for your external people. Without the other thing that we didn't even really talk about with this is that when we give people access to this stuff, we're not bringing them into your directory. We're not giving them any access to your network whatsoever. They are 100% isolated from your internal world. So, which is another thing that we used to kind of fall back on. We give somebody a SharePoint extranet, and then instead of bringing them into our Active Directory, we'd set up a separate Active Directory for them and do all kinds of weird stuff like that. But this is all, it's very isolated. So you can have all these people interact with this data that you're going to give them, but they're not going to have any access to your systems at all, other than what you give them through this portal.
Yeah, and with these future topics and the things that you've mentioned so far, I mean, at the $200 price range, or The other, I guess, the other licensing costs that are out, or not cost, but with that licensing, that the model that you showed, all of these things are pretty much included. I mean, there may be some external costs when you have like Power BI or something like another product, but the development and integrating with something that's already there, that's, when you think about it and you use it for all of that you can, it seems like it's well worth it.
Yeah, definitely. And as long as you've got a good use case for it, I mean, it's just like anything else. It is it's a good product for for those types of use cases where you need to have interactivity with external people. You don't want to give them access to your network. I mean, some contractors and things like that you kind of treat like employees would have credentials in your network, but um, like a vendor or something like that might just need to get in and provide some status updates to product shipments or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
You could use case for that, or um, maybe users that are going to create a request. Say, like if you're a government and you see um, somebody wants to report a broken street light or a down stop sign or a pothole or something like that, they could take a picture and post it on the portal. A lot of use cases where you really want to get a bunch of information from people, but don't want to build a whole separate website and deal with security and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I hear you diving into some GCC stuff there. That'd be interesting from
Yep. And this is
from a
actually,
government
if you are,
perspective. Yeah,
yep, Power Apps
cool.
Portals is available on the GCC. Let's see, which was the last one I looked at. Medium, I think is the one that we checked for sure. I don't know if it's in the high security. I'm not all familiar with the GCC levels, but I know that it's in the medium.
Somewhere available out there.
Yeah,
For some level.
And it's all the GCC is kind of based on what's been approved through the different levels, and there's like a low, medium, and high. I know the high is like military and that kind of stuff.
Right,
but
right.
Medium is I think most of what like city, county, state governments would use for ordinary stuff. It is in there.
Okay.
In fact.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Steve, so much for presenting and giving us, a world of knowledge here. I mean, this is like one of those things you just, if you don't click on it, you don't really know that it's there. It's kind of hidden pretty well, from a like a Power Platform perspective. There's other features that are out there that we can dive into too at some point, but this just being one of those that not everybody's aware of, and this just giving us a great place to start. So thank you again for presenting and giving us some of your time here. Again, this was awesome. A few wrap up things that we'd like to touch on. Just make sure that you guys are looking out for the next Milwaukee Power Platform User Group event. We've been doing them typically every month, once a month, but now we're actually 2 weeks out from our next one, and I'll show that here in a moment. Beyond that, don't forget to stay connected on our LinkedIn group. This is going to be something that's going to keep you up to date, and then allow us to reach out and just let you know that things are happening on our side. And then, as always, if you guys are interested in speaking, whether you've spoken before on our user group, on other user groups, or not at all, we're certainly always looking for, helping the community out, giving back from just from a setup perspective, and being able to give you somewhere to share your experiences. So you could be, fresh, or you could be somebody that does this all the time. It's always exciting to get those different perspectives.
Of course, make sure to subscribe down to Power BI Tips channel. We're just one part. There is a meeting tomorrow that's being hosted by Mike Carlo here, and they're teaming up with the Chicago Power BI user group. So that's a Power BI focused one. So we have several groups that we like to meet. We put out a lot of stuff. The whole Power BI Tips team, some really, really cool stuff. Been learning so much doing this. So definitely subscribe and make sure you keep up to date by joining the groups as well on LinkedIn.
Thank you, Steve, for that. Yeah, certainly. I mean, the Midwest is certainly, we are always communicating with each other, and Power BI Tips, helping out there to keep us connected and producing the majority of these events. So that's really helpful. some upcoming events that are happening. Just going to walk through these really quick. So in 2 weeks from now, we just met with Michael actually this morning, had some great conversation, talked through the UX design and Power Apps applications. Again, this is one that you don't want to miss. This is kind of giving that end user spin to when you're creating apps. Michael's going to be able to dive into the what's, when's, how's, and why's. So that'll be really exciting. Steve, if you want to speak to this one, this is really exciting, something that's coming up here. We have the Power BI version control. I know that this one's really close to both the Canvas apps and the Power BI side of things.
Yeah, this one, we have a version control app. It's been in a beta release for a bit of a while now, but it's going to help with Power BI version control. We have a SharePoint. It's completely free to use, giving some version control, giving some IT processes to a business application here. So definitely look out for this. Join the group because we will be talking about it quite a lot in the next couple of weeks. It's a Power App, completely free, downloaded through the Power BI tips. Lots in there. So we would love to get your feedback. Love to see how you can use it, really help out your version control in Power BI.
I mean, just thinking back to our first beta version, and then now to our, kind of the smaller release of the second beta, and now we're out to the second major. I mean, it's been strides, and it's really exciting to see, where that's going. So excited to share that out with the rest of the world. With that, we have a number of events that are going to fulfill the rest of the year. We have Amber Weiss, who's going to be sharing some of her experiences in the Power Platform. She's a global black belt at Microsoft. We have Ashley Steiner, who is a Dynamics Hot Dish contributor. She's a podcast contributor here in the Midwest. Very exciting. So on the dynamic side, so again, it's all part of that Power Platform world. Really excited to have her coming up here. And then we also have Nate Chamberlain, who's going to talk more about Power BI and Microsoft Lists. So we're going to get those two to combine worlds. So that'll be really exciting to see how Power BI plays with the SharePoint lists. I know that those are somewhat newer in the last year or so. Same thing here with Matt Fleming, who's a principal solution architect. He's going to dive into Dataverse. So again, we're all Dataverse has been kind of like the core on the back end of really everything that we're seeing lately. SharePoint's what is very important, will stay important. But as we start to see, Microsoft Teams environments, we're seeing more Dataverse being spun up. I mean, they just changed the licensing with Microsoft Dataverse as well. So you'll see a lot more of a pickup here in that space. So really capitalizing on that and excited here. And then here at the end, we had actually Anton last November. So excited to have him here coming up in November again. And we'll see what topics that he brings. But he's a great speaker as well. So really excited to have him. And with that, I wanted to say thank you to Steve Schilling, Steve Campbell, and Mike Carlo for putting this on and making this possible. And then everybody else that's here to, I guess, listen to our experiences and share our perspectives.
Yes, I would like to thank everybody for letting me yap for an hour. Not everybody does that. So.
Thank you so much, Steve. Yeah, I mean, my mind is boiling at this point. It was really helpful. So there was a question from YouTube. It looks, how easy is it how easy is it to change the entire design of portals, the navigations, the sections, the background, etc.? So if you want to maybe just answer that before we close out here, Mr. Schilling.
Sure. Like the backgrounds and things like that are actually very easy to do. You do that through the templates. You can move around navigation, things like that, and rearrange stuff, fairly easily. When we're talking about like the forms and the lists and some of that kind of stuff, it's not quite as flexible as say like a Canvas app gallery, but it can still be done, and you'll get kind of that dynamics look to it, but there is some stuff there that you can do. It's probably rearranging the screens, things like that is probably easy. When you start getting into the forms and the lists and things like that, it's probably medium complexity. So,
yeah, it's kind of like any other Microsoft product. Like it gives you so much, and then once you go outside of that, it becomes a little more difficult. It's like the 80-20 rule.
Yep, pretty much.
Awesome. Well, thank you for answering that last question out there on YouTube. So really excited to have kicked this off with Mike and Power BI tips. So thanks again, and Steve for hosting. Appreciate everybody for being here.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Cool.
Well, that was exciting.